Hi, my name is Mo Hack and I am a cancer patient. In December 2014, my life was to change forever. I was working for Kingston University, Student Development Director, and I loved my job. Yet, I was then told I had stage 4 bowel cancer, and everything just changed in that moment. Stage 4 is the worst possible outcome. If it was stage 1, I would have had a better chance of treatment and getting a cure. But stage 4 meant that my treatment options were limited. Straight away, I began chemotherapy, and that was just a horrible experience. I was scared about day-to-day life. I couldn't go to work anymore. The treatment was really challenging. The sickness, the diarrhea, the weight loss, the fatigue, the loss of taste. Some days I couldn't get out of bed and I was struggling, and I did the best I could with how I was going day to day. I had a lot of support from my friends, from my family, and from my network. I would speak to psychologists who would help me with the day-to-day challenges. I didn't know what those challenges were going to be, but I took them head on. From wanting to buy a house and set up a business, my life was about living from one day to the next. I'd go to sleep not knowing if, one, I'd fall asleep, and two, if I did, whether I would wake up in the morning. And so I needed a new routine, from getting up, having a shave, having a shower and commuting to go to work. I'd now struggle to brush my teeth, to eat my breakfast. It was primarily home and hospital. And I did this for a year. I had 18 cycles of chemotherapy. I had a major operation to remove my colon, part of my stomach. And I thought I was going to be okay. But then 1 year into my treatment, I heard the words, "The chemo's not working, the cancer's growing, and there's nothing else we can do for you." The NHS had run out of treatment options, and I was staring death into the eyes, basically. My days were numbered. But we live in incredible times where science and research is at an unbelievable place, and that offered me hope. There was this new drug called immunotherapy that was a potential lifeline, but the problem was it's not on the NHS. My medical team said they were going to apply to the NHS for special funding, but warned it might take a few months to get an answer. So in the meantime, we were trying to find a clinical trial to get onto with the hope of getting access to the drug. But those trials wouldn't accept me, because to get onto a trial is quite challenging. You need to meet certain criteria, and I didn't meet those. The NHS came back to me 3 months later saying no, they weren't going to fund my treatment. And the drug companies also said no, because the drug was on the market. If you could afford it, you can access it. But the problem was, I needed to be a millionaire to access the drug. Now, during that phase, I became depressed. I'd wake up and be rooted to my sofa. I wouldn't have a shave, I wouldn't have a shower, I wouldn't even change my clothes. I'd have friends, family wanting to meet up with me, and I just cancelled appointments. I didn't want to leave the house. Feelings of self-worth and whether I was deserving would come up. I didn't feel worthy. But friends wouldn't give up on me. They were like, "Mo, let's fundraise, let's do something." And I did the work. I worked with mentors and psychologists and therapists and friends to find that place of self-worth. The maths was simple. Raise £200,000 and you have a chance at getting this drug. And we did that. We launched a campaign called Keeping Hope for Mo, where we reached out for help, and the response was phenomenal. Within 1 month, we raised £60,000. Within 2 months, we raised £100,000, and I accessed the drug, and it's unbelievable. The tumours reduced, and 1 year later, my oncologist said, let's stop the treatment and monitor you. And it's been almost 2 years since we started the treatment, 3 years since we started the treatment, and 2 years since we stopped. Well, my cancer's been stable without any cancer medication. And so, if you're watching this video, then my message to you is, however much pain you're going through, whatever your condition, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to reach out and share your pain, share your suffering, because there's so many people out there who are willing to help. And part of it is finding that place within to go out there and ask for that support, because I had strangers reaching out to me, supporting my campaign, people I had no idea exist, reaching out and saying, Mo, we want to be part of the campaign, and some of those are now my friends. And without that support, it's likely I wouldn't be alive now.